Hi friends, I brought Spring After Spring, How Rachel Carson Inspired the Environmental Movement by Stephanie Sisson to read with you today. I love the back of this. It says, in nature, nothing exists alone. And that was Rachel Carson. Julie. It was dawn when the chorus began. Rachel didn't want to miss a note. Pew, pew, caw, caw, bzz, hello. Choo, choo, Judy. True. Coo, coo. Hoo, hoo. Tickle, tickle. As the midday sun warmed the earth, other musicians chimed in. Life and music were all around. And wonders, big and small. Spring was Rachel's favorite time of the year. And as the sun set, she could hear the first bubbles of frog song. Crickets began their nighttime tune, and bats squeaked a lullaby. At home, there was a warm supper and a big family. Mom played the piano, and Dad sang songs and read stories. Rachel's favorites were those about the sea. As the days grew longer and warmer, the chattering, chirping, and hooting got louder until the gathering calls from migrating birds meant that it was autumn. They were coming together for their long journey through the ocean of air to their winter homes. But not everyone left. Snuggled under a warm blanket, Rachel drew pictures and wrote about the life she experienced all year. She read books about animals and imagined what their lives were like. Spring after spring, year after year, the birds arrived. Every season, Rachel watched, listened, and wrote. And like the nestlings, she grew quickly. Then one autumn, it was time for her to go off to college. She was sure she wanted to be a writer until she looked through a microscope and saw a small world in a drop of water. Tiny sea plants and animals. Rachel was amazed and in love. She wanted to know more about the very small world made visible by a microscope. She had never been to the ocean and was scared to go into the water. To learn about creatures in tidal pools, marshes, and the sea, Rachel decided that she would study biology. She put her writing aside. After she finished school, Rachel worked as a scientist and compiled information about the ocean. And now, for her job, she wanted to know what it was like to actually be underwater. She was still scared, but she went anyway. In the fish world, many things are told by sound waves. Rachel began to write books about the sea. They were so full of scientific detail and vivid descriptions of the lives of sea creatures that people could imagine those worlds. Rachel became a famous author. But there was something wrong. All around, nature's voices were going quiet. So Rachel did what she did best. She watched closely, she listened carefully, and learned as much as she could about what was happening. Rachel put together scattered facts and found the answer. People wanted to kill bugs that ate their plants, bothered them, and sometimes even made them sick. So chemists created new poisons to solve the insect problems that seemed to work and seemed to be harmless to other creatures and humans. These poisonous chemicals were quickly used everywhere in huge amounts because people thought they were safe. But Rachel found evidence that the poisons were not safe. Poisons that were eaten by microscopic water life. The water life was eaten by the tiny fish fish were eaten by bigger fish, the bigger fish eaten by an eagle, and eagle egg shells are so thin that they break during incubation. Poisons that coat the worms eaten by birds eat many worms coated in poison and the bird dies. Or poisons coat worms and insects. Worms and insects are eaten by the bird is eaten by the fox eats the birds, mice, and other animals that have been eaten the poison, and the fox dies. Rachel wrote a book to tell people what she learned. Silent Spring created a huge ruckus. Some people were inspired to change, but many didn't believe Rachel. Eventually, President Kennedy took notice and began an investigation to find out what was true. Rachel was asked to come to Washington, D.C. and defend her book. She was scared, but she went. Rachel's testimony in Washington and her writing in Silent Spring made people see that they have an effect on the environment and other creatures that they share the world with. People were inspired to speak up. Congress passed new laws so that nature was treated with more care, and some of the most harmful chemicals were banned. Spring after spring, year after year, people celebrated the earth and the environment because Rachel showed them how beautiful and precious it is. But Rachel went home and continued watching and listening. In the morning, she went out among the tide pools and gathered specimens. In the afternoon, she carefully studied them and took notes on her observations. And in the evening, when the tide had gone out, she returned each creature with great care, exactly in the spot that she had found it, exactly where it belonged. And that's the end. I love that story, and I am so inspired by Rachel Carson. This says, as human beings, we are part of the whole stream of life. We're all connected, aren't we? Humans and nature. We need to make sure that we take care of it. Friends, I hope that you love that book and are enjoying this beautiful day. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.